Hello everyone, this is Mr. 13 Things, also known as Silence Did Good on YouTube. And we're picking up here in the second of the unit circle working backwards. And I'm going to once again continue to talk about the software I'm using and the process, and then we'll kind of let that fall away. So I'm using Smooth Draw, which is freely downloaded, as Sal Khan does on Khan Academy. I am using Camtasia, but actually there is a free download called Cam Studio, which is available. It makes larger file sizes, but it is a reasonable program to use if you do not have access to Camtasia. Any kind of shareware video capture will work. Experiment, I would guess, with Google Plus Hangout, because it looks like it works, though you'll realize that some of the lagginess in programs when you're doing sketching can be a bit of an issue. What I'm going to do right now, off to the left, which you can't see, I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer, and I'm going to then import a layer image. And like I did before, I'm doing this because this program does not have a great circle draw tool or a line tool, but it is otherwise an incredibly good program. I'm going to import a layer image, and that picture that I remember was called base. Obviously you'd like to have it mapped a little bit better so you don't have to go through so many files. And I'm going to right away lock that right down where it is. I do that by kind of finishing, moving a little bit, clicking around, and that's fine where it's at. Now I'm going to kind of, if you remember, erase out. Before I erase, I'm going to go ahead and show a review of what we did last time, and that is the concept that for any point in the circle there exists one and only one inscribed rectangle, which kind of reflects around like this. Let's see. And I did the first two lines like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually play, and I got some triangles in my hand. I'm working on a Wacom tablet here, which does allow me, I'm going to turn it touch on, touch off. It does allow me to see if I can find my point there. It does allow me to kind of use a straight edge, if you would, on that. So I can do this. So I'm actually physically using a straight edge. And if I would mark it up, it would be even better. But I'm going to physically, see, I'm kind of get my point there, moving my triangle, and I'm going to kind of do my best, which isn't perfect, drafting that or drawing that rectangle. And the reason why we did that, it's to establish the knowledge that for any point on the circle, you can kind of reflect around and play around with the idea of reflection off of a point. Pool cue, laser, whatever you can do in class, to let you know that if you can then get to the point in the first quadrant, that will give you basically the x and the y coordinates, which you can not necessarily talk about as being cosine and sine of the angle, when in fact we are looking at the unit circle here, which has a radius equals 1, the diameter equals 2, the area equals pi, and the angle equals 2 pi of the unit circle. These are all true. In fact, all circles are just the unit circle made bigger or smaller. So that's where we were at last time, getting students to get very kind of confident in the fact that they can do this, and they can do this at a very early age. I'm targeting in this video basically 4th grade in this whole series, so we can open the kids up to the wonders of the unit circle and trig, which is going to help with robots, which is going to help to make this basically relevant to all of us. Alright, so that said, I'm going to now use my handy dandy eraser. I've got it pretty big. Let's see how big I can get it. I'm going to erase out everything but the first quadrant. And look at that. So I got my eraser. It's working pretty good. And the physical nature of this, if you're doing this a lot, I'm going to go ahead and erase out. I'm not going to lose my origin point there. Right? So in this video, we're just going to concentrate on the first quadrant and what happens there and how we can kind of even get a little bit better than finding a particular one in a first quadrant. And what we're going to do is we'll get rid of that, and we'll do my best to make my eraser a little bit smaller here. So smooth draw, pretty nice. We'll live with that hole in the concept. And what we're going to do is we're going to now draw another line. I'll make this one green within the first quadrant. And if you notice or not, we're going to draw that line. See if I can find how this works. Wacom tablet, pretty nice. There, and I'm going to try to get this point. Now, if I physically, right, so I need to be that someplace. So I'm going to kind of see if I can draft this not too good. I'm going to do it freehand. Undo. One of the bad things, what obviously if you're using GeoGebra or something else, I'm going to just more or less draw up what is an important line within the first, within the first quadrant, and that is the 45-degree line. So this angle here, theta, equals 45 degrees, which is the same as, if you think about 2 pi going around, it's pi over 4 radians, and radians have no units. All right, so within the first quadrant, what can you do? You can then start thinking about a reflection basically within the first circle, within the first quadrant. So I'm going to go ahead and change my color to blue, and let's assume we had a point here. And you might have gotten that point obviously from reflecting from anywhere else, and you want to know the coordinates of the x and y of that. So you want to know what are the x and the y coordinates of that point, or if you want, or in vector format, x and y. What are the x and y coordinates at that point? Well, all you've got to do basically is just run a perpendicular line through there, if you would, to that point there. The x and y points of there are equal to the reverse. So x and y, I'm going to call this x prime and y prime, if you would, or if you would, x prime and y prime. We can know that the coordinates of that, x and y, is equal to the flip of that. Now, badly explained, but you can start thinking about introducing some format, and then start playing around with numbers. So if you know this, for instance, is something like 10 and, let's see, in this case, this is values a and b, right? This is going to have values b and a. So what you're getting at is the fact that if you know a location, I'll change the color here, of here, right? You just take that through that perpendicular line, take it to there, wherever the case would be. I'm doing it badly. That point and that point are the same except for what? You reverse the values. And that concept of playing around and having numbers here and flipping is something you can play with again, and that would be the second in our set of skills. So the second quiz would essentially giving any circle, not necessarily a unit circle, given the points here or here, let's say, asking what are the coordinates of the point up on the other side. So back and forth about this 45-degree line of symmetry here. And so what you're going to see is, in fact, there's a flipping going on, a flip, 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 and you're trying to go backwards from the point to the point where, in all reality, all students really need to learn is the trends within the first 4 points on the circle, said points being 0 degrees, pi over 12, pi over 6, and pi over 4. That eventually, no matter where you are in the circle, you can reflect and reflect back to some value in this range here and then get really close to it, an estimate, or if possible, if you can keep yourself through your rotation to pi over 12 for your first estimates, or 15 degrees, or the turn in 1 hour of the Earth, approximately, you can get back to a value for the sine and cosine. Remember that the cosine on the unit circle, the cosine is the x value, the sine is the y value, and the tangent is the sine over the cosine, or the y over x. And when you're doing this, of course, the secant is 1 over the cosine, or 1 over x. The cosecant equals 1 over y, and the cotangent equals x over y. All these you don't talk about with the elementary students until you're done. You basically just talk about the shapes and the circle till you get to the point of them understanding what's going on. You come back and teach them some words and start using it on a regular basis, and they will carry it forward. Thanks for listening.